going to record this session. Let me share my screen. Okay, all right. So a couple of things first. We are actually starting real life history this week. So we do have a little bit to get through. So y'all bear with me because it's going to be kind of quick. We're going to go through things kind of quickly this week is what I'm trying to say. Also, one quick thing, I did update your grades in iNow. I'm going to try to do that every single Monday. I think I said that in the Monday This Is That Matter video, but I can't remember if I'd said it in this one or the other one or both. So there you go again. I grade on Mondays because I actually have time to grade on Mondays because I have somebody to keep my child all day. So if you have a problem with your grades or if something's wrong or if I've made a mistake, let me know through messages or through here or through our GroupMe, and I will fix it the following Monday. But just give me a little bit of time to fix it, okay? All right, so today we are going to go through a PowerPoint on Mesoamerica and the early civilizations in South America. Then you guys have an organizer that you can click on, and you're going to have two assignments. They're very small assignments, especially this one right here. So that's why I've given you two. It won't take you very long to get through these. And I don't think you have any for Thursday. Yeah. All right, so your organizer looks like this eventually. You can download it like normal to edit it. And what we're going to do is, it won't be in this exact order for every single thing, but I will let you guys know which one is which and where to go for it, okay? But these are the big things you need to know about each of these 4 civilizations, okay? All right, no, come back. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with this so that we can hopefully get through it very quickly. Sound good? And I've got the chat open too in case you guys need a question or if I'm going too fast or if I ask a question. All right. Oh, no. Hold on. I screwed up already. Well, we can go through this one. So the Americas, there is North America and South America, something you guys should know. They are both enormous land masses that are connected. They have the Arctic Ocean to the north, Cape Horn to the south, and you've got the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans on either side. There are various types of landscapes, which is going to be very important for each of the different civilizations and when we get into the North American Native American tribes. There's ice-covered lands, there are dense forests, fertile river valleys, coastlines for fishing, tropical forests, and hot deserts. So we've got a little bit of everything in the Americas. The major mountain ranges are going to be the Rocky Mountains in North America and the Andes Mountains in South America. The Appalachian Mountains are going to be important as well, but that didn't make it onto this right here for whatever reason. Major rivers are going to be the Mississippi River and the Amazon River. We're going to also have a lot along the Ohio River Valley that we talk about when we get to the North American tribes. All right, how did people get here? There's several different theories for that. The most prominent is the Bering Strait and the land bridge, where the low sea levels produced by the last ice age gave way to a land bridge between Russia and Alaska, and people just walked across. There are other theories out there. There's a theory of, there's one that's a little bit out there that's the theory of the second Garden of Eden. There's the one where we were all part of Pangea at one point, and they spread across the entire world, and then everything split. And the last thing is this idea that natives from Africa along this coastline, when they went out in their fishing boats and all of that, they managed to somehow make it to South America. The Bering Strait's the one we're going to go with, though, because it is the most prominent and the one that makes typically the most sense. click the right button this time. Okay, so civilizations in Mesoamerica. Mesoamerica is the area between Mexico and South America. It's this little stretch of land right here. Now we're going to talk about some civilizations that ended up in lower South America as well, but most of what we're going to talk about is going to be in this area. Mesoamerica, areas of Mexico and Central America that were civilized before the Spaniards arrived. There you go. I'm going to pause for just like a half second so that on the recording, it's got a good spot to pause. Okay, so the first civilization that we know of are the Olmec Indians, and we found different, I guess you could say, different artifacts of Native Americans throughout Mesoamerica. And the Olmec are the ones that we believe are the oldest civilization. Can anybody guess why you would believe that? You can put it in the chat or you can say it audibly. I'm gonna let you guys think on that one because it's a very like obvious answer that when I say it, you're gonna be like, oh, okay. So why would we say that the Olmec are the oldest civilization? Think on that for a few. So we put them at somewhere around 12,000 BC. Probably came a little bit later than that, that we know of, but that's the furthest date that we can possibly mark. All right, nope, go back. They farmed by muddy rivers, and they had large cities, the largest of which was La Venta. And they had a pyramid that towered over the city, and they carved colossal stone heads. Here's one of the stone heads, and this is going to be the pyramid. I think it's called the Sun Pyramid. I think there's going to be a picture of it here in just a few. But it's this massive, massive pyramid that's going to pop up. And it's going to pop up in all of these civilizations. And it's interesting because pyramids like this are going to pop up in civilizations across the world. You're going to have the pyramids in Egypt. You have some in that pop up in the what's going to become China, India area. You have them in North America as well. So it's a very interesting hallmark of civilization, I guess you could say. So major cities would be La Venta. That's going to go into your graphic organizer. 12,000 BC is going to go into your graphic organizer as well. And the pyramid that towered over the city can go in that as well. All right. I don't know how to say this major city. We're just going to say there's the city name. I butcher it every single time I try to say it, so I'm not going to embarrass myself by pretending like I know how to say that. All right, but it is the first major city in Mesoamerica, and it's part of the Olmec native tribes. To the best of our knowledge, it was an Olmec city. There were 200,000 inhabitants. They had large trading centers. They had large trading centers of tools, weapons, pottery, and jewelry. And they had this thing called the Avenue of the Dead, which is super, super cool if you ever look up pictures of what it would look like. It's kind of like the Valley of the Dead in Egypt, but it's just a road of temples, like it says right here. But there are also these like huge, elaborate palaces guarded over by the Pyramid of Sun. And it would be a part of their burial rituals that happened. So a lot of really cool stuff with the Olmecs. There's a lot of cool stuff with all of these civilizations, a lot of kind of creepy stuff with some of these civilizations as well, but some really cool stuff that goes along with that. All right, let's go ahead to the next slide. Maybe. There we go. Okay, yeah, here's the Pyramid of the Sun and the Road of the Dead, it would be right out this way. So really cool, gigantic pyramid just chilling out in the middle of Mesoamerica. All right, the Mayan civilization is the one we'll talk about next. And you guys should have heard, well, yeah, no, you should know who the Mayans are because of the Mayan calendar and the end of the world and all of that. Yucatan Peninsula is where they are. That's this little area right here. Here's Mexico. Here's the very, the tip of South America is going to be down here. This is Central America. They were around from 300 to 900 AD, and they are the most sophisticated civilization that's going to pop up in the Americas as a whole. They were extremely smart. We don't really know what happened to them, but what we think happened, they weren't as much of a warring group as they were intellectuals. They built things, they created mathematics, they created their own writing systems, they created or this gigantic calendar, which we'll talk about here in just a second. And we think that they eventually got run over by other tribes, and they kind of became the Aztecs and the Incan. They kind of assimilated into those two different areas or other civilizations. So their cities were built around a central pyramid topped with a shrine to the gods. So every city had a pyramid that looked like this with a shrine up at the top. The city of Tikal had over 100,000 inhabitants, and they had city-states. So when you think about like ancient Greece, the Mayans were similar to what you would have had in Athens. They had city-states that often were at war with each other, but they very rarely went outside of that. They're more the Athens of Greece than they are like the Spartans of Greece, if that makes sense as a comparison. Their rulers did claim to be descended from gods. They were divinely God, what is the word I'm looking for? They divinely ruled. All right, here we go. The Mayan, this is the Mayan religion here, and this is the part where I was talking about it gets a little bit creepy because they were into human sacrifice, as pretty much all of the other civilizations were. They used it to appease the gods and for ceremonial occasions. They would take certain individuals that they considered to be pure or holy or something along those lines, and it would be like this great honor to be sacrificed. So it's really interesting culture, a little bit terrifying, especially if you ever go to the ruins down in the Yucatan, because if you ever go to like Cozumel or on one of those cruises down through the Yucatan and in that area, you can go to the Mayan ruins, and that's super, super cool. But there's also what is it, Chichen Itza? I think it is. There's this there's the ruins, and then there's this gigantic pool. Let me find a picture of it because it's really interesting. And I'm gonna try to spell Chichen Itza, and I'm not gonna manage it. There it is. Yeah, let's find the pool. So what this is it's just like a it's a cave underground. Yeah, this is it. So it's really cool, really pretty. It's this huge pool. It's natural. You can see all the way down until it just gets dark. It's like some 80, 90 feet deep. Not 80, 90 feet. It's very, very deep. I don't can't remember how deep it is exactly. But this is where they would toss people for sacrifices. So, you can go swimming there, but, you might bring back a ghost with you. So really cool stuff, but also a little bit extremely terrifying at the same time. The Mayans had, so like the Egyptians had hieroglyphs, they had hieroglyphs as well. They had the most sophisticated writing system of anybody else that we see in North or South America. It was based on pictures. That's what a hieroglyph is. And it remained a mystery to scholars for years. So we couldn't We couldn't understand what the language was for years and years and years. And then I think it was found with the Rosetta Stone, but don't quote me on that. They did finally crack the code, and they were able to understand portions of hieroglyphs, but it was it was it was a trek to try to understand what they were saying. The Mayan calendar, this is the one that I was just telling you guys about. It's recorded symbols and dates for the cycle of creation and destruction, and it was scheduled to end on December 23rd of 2012. That was pretty much, we don't know if it was just that was the end of it, or if they said, well, let's go through 2012, and then they stopped. You know what I mean? But there was, you guys would have been old enough to remember 2012 and all of the like predictions of the world was going to end and everything was going to be terrible. And we made it through December 23rd, and a whole bunch of people went down to the Mayan ruins for that day. It was a cool cultural phenomenon, kind of like the Area 51 thing last year. But at the same time, earlier this year, and you're kind of just like, okay, we'll see what happens. But obviously the world didn't end. This is the Mayan calendar. It took them a long time to figure out. This is what I was talking about with the hieroglyphs. It took a while to figure out what all of this said. They also made a lot of really cool movies about it, a few of which are absolutely terrifying. I can't remember the name of them, though, other than 2012. All right, the Aztecs. So the Aztecs are going to be in a similar area to where the Mayans were, which is, so here's the Yucatan Peninsula, and the Aztecs are going to be more towards, within Mexico itself, which is why we think that the Mayans kind of assimilated into the Aztec civilization, because we don't know how the Aztecs got started. The capital was Tenochtitlan, which is this right here. It is literally a city in the middle of a gigantic lake. Super cool. It's super, super cool, but it's also extremely innovative of how they managed to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead. Tenochtitlan, so they built roads of stone across Lake, I can never remember how you say this one, across the lake. So here's the lake, and they built stone roads to link the island to the main land. And I'm going to pause for just a second, because I'm pretty sure there's more on this next one. Okay. All right, and while they were there were 4 million people living in this area. So not just on the island, but in the area as a whole. But Tenochtitlan had thousands upon thousands of people. I'm pretty sure there was at least 2 million people lived in Tenochtitlan. And it's just this huge civilization that lived in the middle of a lake, which is pretty cool when you think about it, and how they managed to create such a cool city and all of that. The power was vested in a monarch who was descended from gods, yet again. So this is why we think it was why one of the other reasons that you think Mayans assimilated into the Aztecs, because this idea of a divine monarch who rules over everybody, and they are assisted by a council of lords, which is similar to what you see in some of the city-states in the Mayan in the Mayan civilization. They also built temples very similar to what you see in the Mayan civilization, which is a picture of this one back here, pyramid, and then the altar to the gods at the top. So the Aztecs, culture-wise, the men were born as warriors, and the women were born to stay home and take care of the children. The quotes are, "You must understand that your home is not here where you have been born, for you are a warrior." And then for the women, it was, "As the heart stays in the body, so you must stay in the home." Women weren't equal to men, but they weren't held on the same plane, because warriors were the highest class in Aztec culture. But they could own land, they could make contracts, they could inherit property, they had a lot more rights than what you see in civilizations like in Europe. So that's actually pretty cool. So the women did stay at home and they did take care of the children, but they also had rights. All right, religion and culture. Yet again, I'm not even gonna pretend like I know how to say these words because I don't. But the Aztecs lived this very harsh lifestyle, and they believed it's an endless struggle between good and evil, like most religions do. But they had a very harsh worldview. They thought that the world was destined to end with destruction by earthquakes, and that the more people they sacrificed, the longer they could delay that inevitability. So they would sacrifice people for that to stop the end of the world. If you've ever seen the movie Apocalypto, the tribe that catches the dude, they are supposed to be the Aztecs, and the Aztecs would literally go around to take over other tribes, other civilizations, other natives. They would either pull them into their own culture, or they would take them for the specific reason of sacrificing them. So extremely, extremely violent civilization, but with some fairly interesting and cool. That sounds so terrible to say, that some interesting and cool cultural aspects when we just talked about human sacrifice, but some interesting things. The decline of the Aztecs. In 1519, Hernan Cortez landed in Mesoamerica and he reached Tenochtitlan. And when he reached it, he was like, hey, this is a pretty cool city. They also had gold, like basically everywhere. And he wanted to know where they had gotten that gold from. So he became kind of friendly with Montezuma, because they saw these people coming in, these white men on horses with guns and shining metal armor and all that. And they're like, oh, these must be the gods. And they have come to either deliver us or to have judgment upon us. So we want to be very welcoming to them. So when they got there, Montezuma and the Aztecs were very kind to them. They let them come into the city. They let them have things. They showed them around. And then Cortez took advantage of that, and he eventually laid siege to Tenochtitlan and took the city hostage. The Aztecs managed to win, but he took and kidnapped Montezuma. And as the Aztecs began to die of European diseases, he returned and leveled Tenochtitlan in exchange. Well, he returned and said, hey, I have Montezuma. Do you guys want him back? And then he destroyed Tenochtitlan after they agreed to show him gold, where the gold was, and to give him payments. Okay, this is the last one we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about it kind of quickly because we're almost out of time. Cultures of South America. This is going to be the Incas. So these are the only people in South America that we're actually going to talk about because they're the major civilization. They originated in a small community, which was Cusco, which is 11,000 feet in the mountains of Peru. So Peru is here, where Lima is, and they basically just follow the mountain chain of the Andes right through here. Paca is from the Emperor's New Groove, is what this is named after this guy. And he was the ruler who brought the entire region under one roof, basically. So they were city-states, and then he brought them under one government. Political structure. So there are 12 million people that are part of the Incan civilization. So it is the largest civilization that we'll talk about. They had a well-organized empire divided into provinces, which were headed by a governor, yet again descended from the sun god, so they were divinely inspired. And then they had forced labor. So every single person who was part of their society had to work several weeks out of each year. So they had to do various things to contribute to their society. They built massive road systems with houses built out of stone. There's a place in La Paz, which is around oh, I can't remember. It's a little bit outside of Bolivia, but there's this amazing and beautiful ruins of the Incan Empire that are just absolutely fantastic. But they've got these amazing roadways and these buildings that were just nestled into the mountainsides. It's really cool. Social structure. The men were born as warriors. The marriages were arranged within social group. Women cared for children, and then they had a daily life of farming. So, pretty similar to what you see with the Aztecs, and pretty similar to what you see with the Mayans. Men are the warriors, women stay at home, but they have more of a farming life. They're far more peaceful than what you see with the Aztecs or the Mayans. All right. Incan building and culture. They built the capital city of Cusco in Peru with close-fitting stones with no mortar to withstand the frequent earthquakes. So it's just the stones. They have to fit perfectly together. There's nothing holding them together. They have to fit together because otherwise the constant earthquakes that happen along that fault line would have destroyed their buildings. Machu Picchu, that's what it's called. It's outside La Paz. It is a famous Incan city built 8,000 feet into the mountains. So that's really cool. I actually have an aunt who lives in Bolivia. I'll have to tell you that story one day. Remind me when we actually get back face to face, and I'll tell you about my aunt who lives in Bolivia. But she is a political figure down there, and they live just right outside, or they have a house right outside of Machu Picchu, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. They had knotted strings as a way of keeping records. No written language that we know of, and they had theater. So that's really cool. So no written language, but they did have a vocal language. It was all audible. I'm gonna pause for just one more second. Okay. They were ended in 1531 by Spaniard Francisco Pizarro, who landed in South America. They had a smallpox outbreak, which killed pretty much the entire population, and then he was able to march into Cusco and capture the city without any problem. And then by 1535, so I mean, it took him 4 years, and that's it, and he conquered the entirety of the Incan civilization. So that's the end. So it was the disease really that wiped out the Incan civilization. All right, that's everything for the South American civilizations. We won't talk about the North American ones until next week, and I'm so sorry. It is another PowerPoint that we will go through very quickly. I may even let you guys just break up into groups and go through it that way, because even I get tired of hearing my own voice. So I'll make sure that this recording gets posted. I'll make sure this recording gets posted so that you guys can fill out this organizer if you weren't working on it while we were going through it. You have 2 assignments for this week under this. So you do have this Explorers web quest, which is just a few questions. Type them into Google and it'll pop up with the answers for you. Super easy. I don't think there's more than 10 questions. The Ancient Civilization social media profile. So this one's going to be hopefully fun. It's been fun for all of my other classes, and I quite get a kick out of it as well. Okay, so what you're doing, you guys are going to choose one of the 4 civilizations that we just talked about, and you're going to create a social media profile for that civilization. I've put a link down here that'll take you to something called Fakebook. If you've never used it before, it's super easy to use. You just have to be careful about remembering to save everything and to save your PIN number, because if you don't save it just right, it'll kick everything out. So be very, very careful when you're saving that. And I would recommend taking screenshots once you're finished, because if you take those screenshots, I know you did it. All right, so what you're doing, you have to have 2 posts showing activities, sports, or anything fun to do found within the civilization you choose. So if you chose to do like let's say you chose to do the Mayan civilization, then you would have to, there are some sports and things that they would do. I would Google that. And you could show activities that they did. So anything that has to do with cultural learning, worshiping the temples, anything like that, you have to do 2 posts for that. You have to have 3 posts showing major cities or cultural attractions. So with the Aztecs, find a picture of Tenochtitlan. You could find a picture of one of their, they had a few very big major temples within Tenochtitlan that you can still find pictures of as well. 2 posts on religion, keep it tame. 1 post on education within the civilization. 2 posts about who the conqueror was or what ended your chosen civilization. So with the Mayans and the Olmecs, they just ended. We don't really know how they ended, so you have a little bit of leeway with that one. If it's the Incans or the Aztecs, you have Cortez or Pizarro. You have to create at least 5 relevant hashtags within your posts, and then you have to have 5 pictures within your posts. So what you're doing, you have a total of 10 posts, 5 hashtags, and 5 pictures. You can have more posts, you can have more hashtags, and you can have more pictures, but you cannot have less than this right here. All right, it's a 100-point assignment. This is your first really large assignment that you guys are going to do. And that's pretty much it. Do you guys have, I'm going to stop the share real fast. Do you guys have any questions? I know that that was a lot of me talking, and I really do apologize for that. I hate doing this. But it just can't be helped sometimes. All of your assignments are going to be due on Monday. And I think that's everything. Do you guys have any questions for me? It's due on Monday, Aurora. Sorry. I think you probably said that earlier, didn't you? All right. If you guys do not have any questions, I'm going to let you go. I don't know if you guys have heard yet, but we are supposed to go back to school on the 21st of this month. Yay. I'm very excited. I'm so excited to be done with virtual, unless you're a virtual student already and then you just remain virtual. But I'm excited to be back in the classroom. And I promise things are going to be so much more interactive when we get back in the classroom instead of this, because trying to take these lessons and make them fun for online is something. All right, if you guys have any questions, you may hang around for a couple of seconds and ask them. If you don't have any questions, that's everything. I'll make sure this video gets posted, and a video of how to do your Facebook or Fakebook profile gets posted as well. And that's all. You guys have a good day. Class on Thursday.